I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, August 15th, 2017, and the Portland Board of Public Education is meeting at City Hall and Council Chambers. We are meeting a little bit early this evening, sorry. In order to go over the process and context behind our superintendent evaluation that we are starting. So we need a motion to amend the agenda. We'll probably do this agenda item first, and then we'll do roll call and Pledge of Allegiance next, because that's when more people will be here. So, yeah, if that works for everybody.
That's what they call me for.
Right. So if I could have a motion to add to tonight's agenda an item to discuss the process around the superintendent evaluation. I see Ms. Vendo. Is there a second by Ms. Thompson? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. So earlier we did meet in a very brief executive session where you received materials from the superintendent that we'll be discussing further at our next meeting, but we wanted to go over just some of the context and process for the evaluation process this year. We are starting a little early in the superintendent's contract, which you all should have in front of you. We are supposed to have the evaluation completed by November, and we wanted to kind of get a head start on it this year so that we had plenty of time to do a thorough process and evaluation. So the contract is in front of you. It is a 3-year contract that we began last year, July 1st, 2016, so we're coming to the end of the contract, the end of the first year of the contract. And I guess I'm not going to walk through the contract, but we just wanted everybody to have it to refer to as we go through this process. The other thing that you have in front of you, you have a couple of policies. One is the superintendent of schools job description. You'll notice that in the superintendent's employment agreement under duties, it refers to this job description. So these are the job description that we were looking for and that we had when we hired Superintendent Botana. The second policy is the evaluation of the superintendent. It states the purpose of evaluating the superintendent, which is to provide strong leadership and management for the school unit, to strengthen the working relationship and communication between the Portland Public School Board now and superintendent, and to assist the Portland School Board in judging the effectiveness of the superintendent's performance. It has the guidelines for the process, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Vendel. She has been working with me and with Javier to develop the process this year, and you'll see as she talks about the process that we are sort of meeting the bullet points in this policy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The sheet that I distributed to you that's titled 2017 Superintendent Evaluation outlines the subsequent meetings that we have scheduled, as well as the items that we will be discussing in executive session. And so I wanted to walk you through additional changes to the process that we had that was based on not just only the board's feedback from last year's evaluation process and what worked and what could have been better, but also with feedback from the superintendent about what was great and what could have been better. And so as you can see, we have added more engagement between Superintendent Botana as well as the board to be more participatory and to have an opportunity for more questions and discussion with the board during the evaluation process. Second, we have, as you received earlier tonight, a copy of his self-evaluation. Last year, he provided evidence, and this year, he provided evidence as well as his evaluation, self-evaluation on the instrument that we'll be using. Third component that is a change from last year is actually the addition of staff input. And the form that it comes in to us as a board is the leadership team's 360 that has been conducted through Barb Stoddard in Human Resources, and I believe the survey was administered to the leadership team, the building level leaders, as well as central office staff non-reps. And so that is, that's one piece of feedback that, as board members had last year that, we wanted to hear from, obviously from stakeholders in the district about, who get to see Superintendent Batana's work day to day to get that feedback and input in our process. So that is a component that we were, that he had presented to us. And last but not least, one change from last year to this year was based on feedback from board members about adding an element of governance in relation to a board self-evaluation, not necessarily tied to the superintendent's evaluation, but having gone through a process where we evaluate our superintendent and our work is a partnership. Our board should also be in the process of evaluating its work, making sure that our priorities aligned and that we have an open channel of communication. And so those are the four primary changes, and I wanted to just open it up and see if there was any questions or feedback about the meeting dates or what we were going to be discussing.
Ms. Morioni.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mendel. Just a question again about what you were just saying about board governance and how we're going to be evaluating that. I didn't quite understand it. Can you just explain a little bit again?
There was discussion last year about about having a board self-evaluation instrument, and I believe this is something that we've had used in the past, and it was a recommendation from Star Board as well. The form that we had used in the past was a survey that was done at the end of every business meeting a few years ago. From what I've been gathering with Ms. Thompson and with some of my own research, there are school boards that have actually done an annual evaluation about their priorities, about how they do their work, sort of a kind of a big picture assessment about, are they meeting their goals? And so we are in the process of putting together some of the tools that Sarah's gathered over the years, and we're working on. We'll have at the September 5th meeting, a draft for everyone to review and make sure that it hits all of the right notes of what we feel like should be in an evaluation.
I'm really pleased about that. I mean, I do think we need that, so I just was asking more around process of it. So so we're going to have a chance to review what we're going to be using, and then, and it says it's an executive session. Is that, when we review it, should it be an executive session?
Yeah, we should probably take that out of, the items that would be in executive session for that meeting would be the review of the individual feedback forms that board members had scored, and kind of presentation of the summary of the highlights from those forms.
That's great. So the board evaluation discussion
Yeah, we
around that will
take
be
that out.
open in our business meeting agenda that night or something?
Yeah, I think, for the viewing public, we kind of had this discussion earlier about what exactly in this process should be public and what needs to be in executive session. And so everything around policy and process is public. And so I think what we'll do is kind of just take another look at this and kind of break it out.
Yeah.
Anything that belongs in executive session will stay there, and anything that's not will be in an open meeting.
This is the fourth draft of this document. Yeah, so I appreciate the feedback.
Work in progress, it's
Yeah.
good. My only other question and request is on the superintendent's employment agreement, his contract. I signed that as chair, and this copy
Yes.
doesn't have my signature on it, so I'd hate for the public to go, well, this was never codified or
Right.
verified.
This was a copy that the superintendent provided to me in a hurry.
Yeah. Okay.
But there is another copy that
It should
HR
be on
has
file that
folder.
Janet has. If we could just not post this one for the
Right.
public to get concerned about, that, yeah,
Okay.
that we didn't actually, okay, thank you.
Those checks kept coming.
Any other discussion, Ms. Davis?
Another item on the 19th, the board self-evaluation, that probably should come out of executive session as well. When will we be receiving the form to evaluate the superintendent? I note that it's due, that it's going to be collected on the 29th. I was just wondering when we would receive it so that I could figure when I would have it to work on. Is that known?
So there are two options. If you like to be able to kind of sit with Javier's evidence that he presented and work on this and really take your time, I have copies of the instrument that you can take with you and have, write notes. You can, be able to use this for your own purposes and bring it back for the next meeting. So I can leave that with you now, or if you would so choose. Pardon?
Possibly you could just email us the self-evaluation form that the superintendent filled out, and then we can do it electronically from there and write our notes, et cetera, and then bring it in to submit to you. That way it might be a little easier opposed to you, obviously without his comments, et cetera, and his ratings of himself, because the tool itself is also public information. So if you could just maybe email the tool, that'll be easy.
I mean, if that's people's preference, we can do that too. Yeah. Will people have the ability to print them out before the meeting? And if people would like the opportunity to make additions or changes based on the presentation, that's the other thing. If you, there's, trying to say. For those who want to make additional remarks or changes to certain readings based on, the presentation and discussion with Superintendent Botana on the August 29th meeting, I mean, it's fine if you wanted to add that in. I just wanted to make sure that there we'll have, our plan is to collect forms at the end of that meeting on the 29th.
Right, so I think the idea was to actually complete the evaluations at that meeting, which, so the 29th is, it's a fifth Tuesday, so for us, it would be a third meeting, so this would be our meeting, just focus on this. So I think that was the plan, but what I'm hearing now is people probably want an opportunity to kind of workshop with the tool ahead of time. So I saw Ms. Davis and then
Yeah,
Ms.
and
Thompson.
I wasn't through all of my questions. I think that doesn't give me, at least, time for reflection. I'd like to have the discussion and to hear what's said. I'd like to have the tool in advance for me to think about it independently, and then I'm going to want some time to put those two things together to come up with what I want to say in the end. So I would not be prepared to submit it that night, nor do I want to be in a position where I'm adding comments on the fly. I really would like, probably given the reality, at least a couple of days to be able to sit with what I heard, sit with what my impressions were prior to that, what I heard from other people, and actually finalize my comments.
Okay.
And then I have one other question.
Okay, go ahead.
That was just the time of executive sessions. And it's helpful for me because I work in Gorham until 4:30. So being at a meeting at 6 o'clock takes planning and orchestration logistically. So it would be helpful for me to know if all of these are scheduled for 6 o'clock so that I can make those plans.
Okay.
It is, and I would hope that we would also think about what we've got on the rest of our agenda, because our agreement with each other, I believe, was when we went to the idea of meeting at 7 and ending by 10, unless we voted to do differently, was that 3 hours was really a sufficient time for work. And what I have observed is that by starting at 6 and still meeting until 10, we're now asking all of us to put in essentially a half a day's worth of work after having been at work for 8 hours or 9 hours or whatever before, and that's a lot to ask. So I'd just like that to be taken into consideration as we plan that.
Okay.
That if we're going to have an executive session at 6, I would hope that the meeting would be done by 9.
Ms. Thompson, and then Ms. Morioni.
That actually sounds good. We tried to change the policy, but it didn't fly. Okay, so I guess for part of that, I would just concur with Ms. Davis that I would like to have the presentation and discussion with the superintendent, and then be able to, prior to that, with what we have here, we can start.
Yeah.
Once you send us the tool, and then when he may say something that bedazzles us and want us to change something we did and give him plus. And so I want him to have that opportunity to be able to present to us and not us have a final product already done. So if we could just space it, even if we have to, which I hope we don't, but have a short special meeting to get this done. But I think since doesn't have to be done till November, maybe we could lengthen this schedule a little bit, because wrapping it up at September 19th is early. So we have some time. Thank you.
Ms. Morioni.
Just want to say I agree with that discussion.
Thank you. And so I think, the purpose of tonight was to kind of get feedback on the process. So we've made these notices, and we'll do a draft 5, 6 of the of the agenda. Are there any other comments, feedback about this before we move on to our regular business meeting? Ms. Thompson.
Just clarifying, so the, Ms. Vendo alluded to the surveys that we did at the end of every business meeting, and that was actually separate from the self-evaluation. That was more of evaluating how that meeting went, the flow of it, and it never really, I think the board never really took it seriously, and tabulating all that information, myself and Mr. Eglinton and Janet DeBias along the way, we were wondering, what are we tabulating to give back, because people were just checking off the boxes, so we discontinued that. That was part of Starboard's suggestions. So if we talk about that piece along with self-evaluation, then I think we have to make a concerted effort as a board to really evaluate the meeting opposed to just checking boxes and then leaving for the night, that we really reflect on things we would like to have better opposed to, in the self-evaluation. I appreciate you diving into that because we have talked about that for a long time, and I think it's important that we look in the mirror. We're asking the superintendent to do it, and we should do it as well as his partner. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well then. So we'll move, go ahead, Jenna.
So on a final note, I am actually going to hand out the hard copies of the instrument that we'll use in case if anyone wants to, get a head start, and we'll make sure to incorporate the other elements and send it along electronically as well.
Thank you. May I please ask the superintendent to call the roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Seeliger? Here, but stepped out. Ms. Vendo?
Here.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler is absent. Ms. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Present.
Ms. Morioni?
Here?
Mr. Eater? Here. Señor Rodriguez?
Presente.
Ms. Donato? Ms. Farah? Not here. Ms. Hassan? And Mr. Siegel? And Chair Terraro?
Here. And Ms. Seeliger is with us. She's just stepped out for the moment, and Ms. Hatzenbuehler is excused this evening, being out of state. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I don't have a chair's report tonight, except to remind board members that we do have an extra Tuesday this month, which means that we will be using the last Tuesday as a meeting for the purpose of our superintendent evaluation. And we don't have a report of the students tonight. Moving into report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, I would start by recognizing someone who captures the essence of Portland Public Schools. Evalinda Lindsay is the head custodian at Hall Elementary School. Those who know her know that she's always gone well above and beyond to support all of the needs of Hall School. This year, she's been enormously challenged by flying solo at Hall for the summer with 12 classrooms to move due to construction. In addition to this, she has cleaned the building magnificently with no water, except that which was trucked in on a weekly basis from friends with backyard hoses. According to Principal Dawn Keniston, Evalinda, quote, is at the heart and soul of our school and plays a major role in all aspects of school life. Her work ethic serves as a model for students, staff, and families, end quote. Evalinda has lived in our country for 30 years, having settled here from Jamaica. She has 5 sons and 16 grandchildren with whom she spends all of her free time. She's a wonderful example of the amazing people in the Portland Public Schools. Thank you, Evalinda. Evalinda, do you want to come to the mic?
No, thanks.
No.
I don't think she needs one. I work with her.
You're on TV.
I want to thank my family. And I want to thank my additional family from Hall School. I know I'm not always easy to get along with, and I yell at you guys, but I really love you guys. And I thank you all for recognizing the job I do. I did it because I love my job, and if I have a work to do, I'm going to get it done. I don't care what. And that's my motto. And I thank Mark over there. Mark, please stand. Please. He was my water boy while he was here for 3 weeks before school get out, and then after he leave, I was solo. And I appreciate this, and I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Evalinda.
A whole lot to me. A whole lot to me. This means a lot to me. Thank you.
What you do means a lot to us. Our next school board meeting is scheduled for September 5th, and by then, the 2017-2018 school year will be officially underway. Staff is back in full force on Monday, August 28th, although many of our teachers, as evidenced by what you see in the audience today, have been in their classrooms getting ready for weeks and participating in all sorts of professional development activities. First through 12th grade students are in school on Wednesday, August 30th, and Friday, September 1st is a school holiday for the long Labor Day weekend. All students, including pre-kindergarten and kindergarten students, will be back in school on September 5th. There are many back-to-school activities scheduled at our schools, including ice cream and watermelon socials, family fun nights, picnics, and other fun meet-and-greet activities. Visit our website at www.portlandschools.org for details on your school. We're excited to start a new school year and look forward to welcoming all of our families and students for the new school year. And I'm happy to report that families will be returning to a school district that has been named by niche.com to the list of top 10 districts in the state of Maine. All of us involved with the Portland Public Schools know that we offer an educational experience unrivaled in this state. Our diversity, the richness of our partnerships, our many programmatic options, and our incredible staff are unique and contribute to making Portland a great place to live, work, and go to school. It's rewarding to see our school district recognized publicly, and I couldn't be more proud of the amazing people, our families, our staff, our partners in government, the non-public sector, and businesses that make the Portland Public Schools what it is. And consistent with that, I would like to take a minute to recognize one of those partners who's with us in the audience today, Carrie Olson Cartwright, Vice President for Corporate Social Responsibility at Unum. Carrie, can you stand so that we can recognize you? As you will hear later tonight, Unum has underwritten our communications work on the comprehensive plan, and you will be getting an update on that during our focus on educational issues later tonight. More recently, Unum donated used office furniture to the school district. We will be formally including that in our agenda at a coming meeting, but I know that Carrie is very busy and she probably will not be able to stay with us through each of those items, but I wanted to recognize her for her personal commitment to the district and also thank Unum for their support of our work. As I said at the start of this, we wouldn't be recognized as one of the top districts in Maine if not for our families, our staff, our partners in government, the non-public sector, and businesses that make the Portland Public Schools what it is. And Unum is a wonderful example of that last part. So thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Unum, for everything that you do for the Portland Public Schools. So as summer comes to a close, I would like to thank our principals and school leaders for their hard work in preparing. While summer is a time to relax and recharge batteries, our school leaders have spent the summer preparing for this new school year with great passion and dedication. Last week, we held a back-to-school leadership retreat with all of our principals, assistant principals, and central office leaders, and I was, as always, struck by the great capacity and leadership qualities of our team. Our 3 days together were capped by a panel presentation featuring 6 of the Teach Portland interns. These promising educators shared their experiences in the program, their reasons for wanting to teach in Portland, and their vision for the future. It was a wonderful closing to a great 3 days with our amazing Portland Public School leaders, and I want to thank them as we get ready for the coming school year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving into report of the secretary. Consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of August 1, 2017. Is there a motion? Mr. Rodriguez, seconded by Ms. Morioni. Are there any questions on the meeting minutes? Seeing none. Is there any public comment on the meeting minutes? Seeing none. Any board discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of August 1st, 2017, please indicate. It's unanimous. And report of the committees, starting with curriculum. Ms. Morioni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next curriculum meeting will be August 22nd at 6 p.m. at Portland District Office in the United Nations Room. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've had the summer off, so I don't have much else to report.
Operations, Ms. Davis.
We began meeting again on August 8th. We had a presentation and discussion about buses. We also began working with the Sebago Technics LaValle Brensinger report on the $321 million of maintenance, which sits before us over the next 20-some years. So began to talk about how we're going to work with that report in the future. And our next meeting is scheduled for September 12th at 7:30 at Central Office.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like just for the minutes to reflect that presentation was by Mr. Barlow, and it really it was an in-depth look at our fleet and responding to a significant set of questions that had been posed about the direction of the district with respect to its bus fleet. So it was a in-depth presentation sort of laying out the rationale and the timing on that. And I know that because there are interested parties outside, I just wanted to make sure that that was in the record.
Thank you for adding that. That is indeed correct, and it was an excellent presentation and a good discussion followed.
Thank you. Finance, Ms. Vendo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance and Personnel Committee met on August 8th to review options for the budget surplus and discuss the fall 2017 budget timeline. We also reviewed the Superintendent Evaluation timeline, and tonight we will hold a workshop with the board to update and solicit feedback on the superintendent's proposals and to give guidance for the Finance Committee as we enter the next stage of the process. I will note that it's in your packet for tonight's workshop, but on Thursday, August 24th, we will have a joint finance meeting with our counterparts at the City Finance Committee members right here at 5:30, and then immediately following that meeting, we will be holding a public hearing and a Finance Committee meeting in regards to the budget surplus.
Thank you. Policy, Legislative, and Public Affairs, Ms. Seeliger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have our next Policy, Legislative, Public Affairs Committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, August 22nd, also at 6 p.m. We'll be in central office at the Casco Bay Room. It's open to the public, and we will be finalizing our transgender policy to present to the committee this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other committee and member concerns? Ms. Thompson?
I just have a couple things. One, I wanted to recognize some hard work that's been happening over the summer from parents and community members regarding our upcoming school referendum. And they've been out working hard and educating people in the community about the upcoming referendum. So I want to recognize all of the hard work that's been happening over the summer. The second item is just to provide us a little bit of context first. Back, I don't know how many years ago it was now, the board made a decision to move the students at Bayside out of West, what was called West School at the time. And I think it's been apparent that the board made the decision, what we thought was right at the decision at the time. And right now, where they reside at central office, we know and recognize it's challenging. At the public affairs meetings that we had, the 4 that we've had in the previous year, that was the top item, excuse me, at every meeting. And I wanted to recognize our staff and also ask the superintendent if he could talk just briefly about the thoughts about Bayside in light of recent articles in the paper with the challenges in Bayside and the drug in prostitution and so on and so forth. I've received emails and phone calls from various community members and staff members of their concern and wanting to want us to realize that this is what they deal with on a daily basis. And so I guess for me, while we haven't discussed this as a board, I guess I would like us to start conversation around that and what solutions are. And I know that you've put some solutions in place as temporary fixes. So could you talk a little bit about some of the things you put in place since last year, like the playground and some other things? And while it doesn't solve, obviously, the surrounding issues that the city's dealing with, we're part of that neighborhood.
Sure, and I probably will miss some things, so Assistant Superintendent Crocker, feel free to jump in and help to shape this. We've obviously been concerned about the situation at Bayside. You know, we were part of some of those community meetings, and subsequent to that have had numerous meetings with the entire faculty and staff at Bayside to talk about options. It's a complicated situation. There are several options that we have considered, including moving to a new location, and those tend to be extremely costly options that we've not been able to find a viable one. We've taken care of some of the immediate concerns there were, and I think at the time that you were holding the forums and staff came, the primary concern was around air quality issues in the location. And so I know that the previous year that Interim Superintendent Crocker also dealt with those issues, and it's an ongoing process, and they've continued to get better. We've implemented a series of protocols to whenever there is an incident that could cause potentially bacteria to accumulate. We've got a protocol for cleaning. We've got a protocol for making sure that people don't track stuff into the building that could contribute to the air quality issues. And we've basically determined through expensive external third-party testing that there isn't mold in the building, that there is occasionally bacteria that results from some of the circumstances in those classrooms. So this summer, We are in the process of replacing some carpeted areas with hard surfaces that will sort of mitigate for some of the bacteria that could potentially be in the air. We are also addressing the concerns that the staff have expressed about the lack of open space for the kids to be able to play. So right now, when they want to take the kids out, they have to take them either to the gym over at Adult Ed or to the playground at East End. Both of those are, sort of complicated moves with kids that sometimes don't handle transitions particularly well. So they've asked for a site-based solution, and so we are, beginning in September, we'll be converting a portion of our parking lot into a play lot that will be available to the students at Bayside on a daily basis. And so they will have access to an outdoor play space that will be safe and conducive to the types of activities that they want to be able to do, and right there in the building. We've also considered, knowing that the concerns about the neighborhood, we considered, and the staff weighed in, and after they weighed all of the options, determined that they didn't want to do that. We considered moving the Bayside program from downstairs up to the 3rd floor, and so that kids would enter and exit through Cumberland Ave instead of through Portland Street. And again, after staff considered the options in terms of space and things along those lines, that was not a viable option, nor was it a viable option to have kids enter through there and then sort of work their way through the building down to Bayside. So, I don't think that we have a permanent solution that we're comfortable with, but we are taking steps, and we are working hard at trying to be responsive to the concerns that the staff raise. We don't think it's an ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination, but it is the best option that we currently have. One of the things that we've looked at is the possibility of moving the programs out to school buildings, and at this point, the staff prefers to stay together as a building, and we obviously do not have a facility that they could all go into as a program. So we're continuing to work through this. It's not something that I can tell you we have a easy fix for, and we have incredibly dedicated staff. I think that they do everything that they can to shelter students from whatever disruptions happen outside of the building, but some of it does affect their day-to-day experience as they come and go from school.
Thank you. And I guess with the chair checking with the board to see if there's the will of the board, at some point I'd like to add a workshop around Bayside and talk out what possible solutions are. It was a board decision, and I know that there's some possibility of people on the city side weighing in with staff, and it is a school district decision where the program goes. So I want to make sure that our staff and the board get that opportunity before others come up with their own solutions. So it's a discussion that we should be having, and I look forward to adding that at some point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member concerns? Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to thank Ms. Thompson for bringing this up. I was at those community meetings last year, all 3 of them, and yeah, that was the focal part of the conversation. And like Ms. Thompson pointed out, superintendent just did. These are some of the most vulnerable students that we have. This is part of our district that really needs our full support. And it's encouraging to know that you have had these meetings and we have had these discussions. And I want to express support for what Ms. Thompson just brought up, having maybe a workshop or including the board in the discussion so that we can be as well informed as we can before we have to make a decision. A lot of times when constituents bring this up very quickly and almost dismissively, they'll say, oh, just, let's add them into one of the other buildings. And there's a lot of barriers to that. It's a big, big challenge to do something like that. So I think having those discussions out in the open and informing people of the challenges that the Bayside Learning Center has, I think is very important. And thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Ms. Davis.
Could I just ask with that conversation, if we could also talk about what the options would be should we receive state funding, should the referendums not pass and we continue to seek and do receive state funding, would we be able to work with the state to include, as we're building new schools or substantially renovating existing schools, a space for this program, and whether that would be an option should the referendums not pass and we have to decline state funding?
Okay. We will add this to our working ongoing agenda. Any other member concerns? Seeing none, we will move on. We don't have any consent items tonight. Under old business, we have consideration and action to approve the Portland Public Schools Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. Is there a motion? Ms. Morioni, seconded by Ms. Vendo. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. The safety of students and staff is a high priority for Portland Public Schools, and the district has a comprehensive school emergency management plan that outlines clear procedures to handle 24 situations a school may face. These important manuals are in each school and form the basis of school-specific measures and drills. State law requires that school boards annually approve the comprehensive emergency management plan developed by the school unit administration working with school teachers and staff and local county and state public safety officials, firefighting personnel, emergency management officials, mental health officials, and law enforcement officials to identify and deal with all hazards and potential hazards that could reasonably be expected to affect a facility or unit under the authority of the school administrative unit. So that's what we're asking you to do today. The district's comprehensive emergency management plan meets these requirements. District administrators periodically review planning documents and their implementation and work with school and city staff to assess lessons learned from exercises, drills, and actual events. The district continues to collaborate with staff and local, state, and federal partners to strengthen planning at the district and school levels. District administrators, state agencies such as the Maine Municipal Association, and local emergency responders continue to work with building administrators to identify building deficiencies. So today we're asking you to approve the district's comprehensive emergency management plan.
Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Morioni.
I just wanted to ask a clarifying question. In the past years, this has been always brought to the Operations Committee, and we didn't see it there, but I just wanted to ask for the public's sake, could you talk about any, or mention any high-level changes or any changes from previous years, if there were any, that the public should be aware of?
There were none.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the Portland Public Schools Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, please indicate. It's unanimous. Okay. Under new business, consideration of rescission of action to revise policy JICI, athletic and co-curricular code of conduct for middle and high school students. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Would the superintendent like to speak to this motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. As you recall, after months of work, we presented a revised policy for co-curricular eligibility. After getting your approval on Tuesday, August 1st, as we looked ahead to implementation, it became clear that the staff consensus in support that I presented to you on Tuesday was not there. At issue were two key provisions. One was around Howells. The version that we prepared in June had Howells grades of 2 being sufficient for eligibility, and the version that we presented and you approved had raised the bar to 3. That score is the top of the Howells scale, so it's similar to requiring an A average for academic eligibility. Additionally, high schools supported moving forward with Howells for eligibility eligibility for their 9th graders, but support for using it for 10th and 12th graders is not yet consistent. We also, the other area of concern is the 1-week eligibility windows that we discussed. The version that we submitted in June and the one that you approved moved academic probation and ineligibility to 1-week windows instead of the current 3. That was done to prevent a student from missing too much of the season because of ineligibility. However, the feedback we received since was that the burden of students turning in grades, turning those around, and managing the paperwork exchanges between teachers and coaches is significant and would be impossible to ensure that we can manage it with the needed accuracy and consistency. As you may recall, this policy was up for revisions because of the move to proficiency-based learning. In the course of making those revisions, we wound up also revising thresholds and procedures. So it's important to remember that the existing policy, which is what we're going to be asking you to revert to, was not a problem and did not require immediate repairs. So it wasn't something that we had significant concerns about, and we were repairing the policy around those concerns. It was, while we engaged in changing for the proficiency-based learning requirements, we wound up going further down the policy and looking at those eligibility issues, and that's where I think the concerns exists. So I believe that reverting to the existing functioning policy is the only viable course of option. So the motion that you have in front of you was reviewed with council, and that was council's suggestion in terms of the appropriate actions to take. And if that motion is adopted, the revisions to the policy will be rescinded, and the previous policy, JICI, will remain in effect without revision. I do want to say that I regret the confusion that's resulted from this policy, and I'm incredibly grateful to Assistant Superintendent Crocker, to principals and athletic directors for surfacing these concerns and committing to finding a workable solution.
Are there any questions on the motion? Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. So just so I can have a better understanding, how is it that we're going to work this back through? Is it going to go back through committee? Is it pretty much we're going to start from scratch?
So we are going to sort of start at the very beginning. So we are going to go back and make sure that we have clear understanding with the staff. So we are working on setting up a project plan for working through all of those steps. It will definitely come through the curriculum committee. It probably should come through the policy committee as well, so that we have a clear and consistent understanding of what it is that we are moving forward, and that all of the stakeholders are signed on the line before we actually bring it back. So we don't think that this is, again, the policy that was in place was one that was working. It wasn't something that was that needed an immediate fix, but clearly in the process of looking at, so how has practice evolved? What are the new procedures that are in place? There are adjustments that need to be made, but we clearly didn't have it right at the time that we brought it to you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Ms. Thompson.
Since I was the only one that voted against it, I want to take an opportunity to thank Mr. Botana very much, Superintendent Botana very much, for taking the feedback and also having staff work and review it a little bit more. And I know it's not a result of me voting against it, but also raising some questions, I hope. So I appreciate the time that you took, and also for making that time to rescind and make it something that works for families and students and staff. So thank you very much.
Ms. Morioni.
I also agree, and I'm very appreciative that we are pulling this back, because it didn't, even during our curriculum work on it, in the future, it'd be really great to even have those administrators, including athletic directors and those that are involved in the decision-making. It'd be great for us to have an ability to talk directly to them as well. It became clear, well, I won't get into the weeds of it, but the other thing that became difficult is when we go on recess and we have a break off and then we pull the policy back up to vote on it after that, it shifted from what the curriculum committee had approved out of our committee to what then the board saw. So that was also something of concern. So just something for future, whenever we do have this, 1 month hiatus, that if there are any changes, it doesn't move directly back, or to the board. It would stay in committee until we did approve the final version that goes to the board is my only request going forward. I know that this was just something that there was a need of urgency only to try and get it into the handbooks and make sure staff was, but anytime I think when we go too fast, too soon on these types of things, it's a red flag. I think we should slow it down and make sure we're getting it all correct, particularly when it's involving, our students like this. So thank you very much for doing this. Thanks.
Any other comments? I would just echo both Ms. Thompson and Ms. Morioni in thanking you for your work in correcting this and making sure that we have a policy that is workable for our staff and everybody involved. Unless there's any other discussion, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of rescinding the action to revise policy JICI, Athletic and Co-Curricular Code of Conduct for middle and high school students, please indicate. It's unanimous. Moving into personnel, consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed. Is there a motion? Ms. Morioni, seconded by Ms. Davis. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
I would, Ms. Trevaro. We have a number of teachers who are being hired into probationary positions. These are all positions created as a result of turnover in schools and additional positions that are all in the budget. So we're extremely, as we mentioned at the last board meeting, we're extremely happy with the candidate pool and the quality of the people that we've been able to bring into the district. I believe that all of these individuals are going to be solid contributors to our work and will be part of the Portland Public Schools for many years to come. So I am extremely happy to present this slate of candidates.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, there is no public comment where this is a personnel item. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel items listed, please indicate. It's unanimous. Okay, now we're on board focus on educational issues. We have Learning Works.
So we have two presentations today during the board focus on educational issues. The first one is our strong partners at Learning Works. Learning Works has been working with the Portland Public Schools for a long time, and they have a new executive director, or newish, sort of the way that I'm new, right? Newish executive director, Heather Davis, and Heather is here. We felt it would be helpful, particularly on the sort of on the tail end of our summer program, where Learning Works is an incredibly valued and strong partner of the district, to have them share all of the work that they do with the district, because they are our partners, as I said, in the summer school work, but also during the school year, after school, and in lots of other projects. And so Heather and her team are here, so I'm trusting you will introduce your team. And
well, actually, I'm going to have the team members go first, and then I'm going to close it out. So, and I think we just need to set up our projector, and we're going to dive in.
Great. And we're going to move off of here so that we can see the presentation.
You ready? All right. Good evening, everybody. We're super delighted to be here tonight. My name is Tiana Hall, and I am the English Language and Literacy Program Director at LearningWorks. I'm here with the rest of our team. As Heather said, we'll be talking to you about all of the different programming that we offer. Can you hear me? Especially the programming that supports the school goals. So I'm going to get us started, and I'm going to talk specifically about the English Language and Literacy Program. LearningWorks has been doing English Language and Literacy programming for adults since about 15 years. And one of the newer additions to our roster of programming is our Family Literacy Program, which operates out of Riverton Park. The aim of that programming really is to support parents' ability to effectively partner with schools to support their child's academic growth. So effectively, we're really aiming at the children, but we're going through the family. To illustrate the work of this program, I thought I'd share with you a brief story. And I wanted to talk a little bit about one of our students. Her name is Ala. She's originally from Iraq. She got here some time ago, I can't remember when, but when she arrived, she couldn't speak English at all. Her children were in the school system, of course. Her eldest was struggling. He was struggling behaviorally, he was struggling academically, and her limited English did not allow her to really fully partner with the school, which was really what she wanted to do. The school was really addressing his behavior and the academic pieces at school. Over time, through Ala's participation in the Family Literacy Program, she learned about the school system. She learned how to partner, what the options are, who should she talk to, how should she communicate with her child's teacher. As her English skyrocketed, because it did, she was able to attend school meetings with no translator. She's able to bring many of the principles that she learned in team meetings home to support her child. He last year moved from having one-on-one supports all day long to fully integrating back into the class. This last summer, he was able to be in LearningWorks summer program, and he was participating in the after-school program as well. Her family is thriving, she's thriving, and really that's down to her ability to partner with the school who's doing so much work. We're happy to be a part of that work, and we're happy to partner with you. And I'll turn the time over to my colleague, Amy.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. My name is Amy Pichette, and I'm the Director of After School and Summer Programming, and this is Trina next to me, manning the slides. Who is my partner in the after-school world. And I'll let you read the slides, and I'm just going to share a little bit. There's so much to talk about with after-school and summer programming, and I'm going to be focused and read about some of the our most proudest outcomes that we see from students participating. As mentioned in the slide, we provide after-school and summer programming for elementary students who need more time engaged in learning in order to catch up with their more resourced peers. Our proudest outcome is the confidence we instill in students. According to a spring 2017 of school day teachers, Portland school day teachers, who had regular attending students in their classrooms, gains in student confidence in learning was the #1 observed outcome in their students participating in LearningWorks after school. Other outcomes from that survey included gains in science and engagement in learning English and math. One of the many stories that highlight this outcome is one of a Reiki 3rd grade student who wrote a winning essay for the Seaport Credit Union essay contest about what he wants to aspire to be when he grows up. That's not him, but that's another.
But it was such a cute photo.
Wonderful, yes. No, that's one of our students. That's one of your students. This student wrote about wanting to attend MIT to become an engineer who designs earthquake-resistant buildings to keep people safe. This student was inspired by the Engineering Adventures unit we use in our programs, and this one happened to be It was called Shake Things Up, Engineering Earthquake-Resistant Buildings. We have many reportable outcomes and program components to share, and Trina and I would be happy to meet with anyone who would like to learn more about after school.
Hello, I'm Lauren Willett. I'm the new Ames High AmeriCorps Program Director. So since 2013, we've been working with Portland Public Schools to provide AmeriCorps members. We provide up to 40 members between Reiki and East End each year. We operate on an RTI model, and our AmeriCorps members provide one-on-one and small group support, instruction for primarily math and literacy, but also provide mentoring and are involved in community engagement programs like the walking school bus. So you'll see them pick up kids from Parkside and walk them when it's like 5 degrees out. So to just demonstrate our impact, I have a quote to share from Juliet, who was a member at Reiki this past year. So she says, "For the first 2 months of my service at Reiki, I worked with a new student on math every day. I worked with him in Spanish, and our sessions would often evolve into discussions about his favorite animals, rabbits, or his greatest fears, volcanoes. But we did some great math together too. Once he grasped the concepts in Spanish, he was able to master the skills his class was learning in math. Once shy and reserved, his self-confidence began to grow, and after a month of one-on-one time, he was able to keep up with his classmates and started participating in morning math discussions." So, thanks.
Hi folks, thanks for having us. My name is Tim Delahanty. I'm the director of the ServiceWorks program at LearningWorks. And the ServiceWorks program provides opportunities for youth in the greater Portland that need to make amends for their community or with their community for harmful or antisocial behavior. Behavioral incidences usually include those such as theft, possession or use of marijuana, possession or use of alcohol, fighting, and vandalism. The program serves youth who are involved with the juvenile justice system or may be facing disciplinary action at school. Over the last school year, ServiceWorks helped guide 36 Portland high school and middle school students through a total of 317 hours of community service. Youth have volunteered with Wayside food programs, Preble Street Resource Center, Sale Maine, Furniture Friends, West End Community Policing, and many more. All of the youth involved with the program were able to access these meaningful and productive opportunities in lieu of being suspended. Casco Bay Principal Derek Pierce was recently interviewed for our 50th anniversary project, and Derek had this to say: "We have used the Alternatives to Suspension program as part of our school's move to a discipline based on restorative justice. When our students complete service with LearningWorks in lieu of a traditional suspension, I know their education is not stopping. It is expanding. The students have an opportunity to see the value in both serving and making amends. Participating students typically return to us more ready to contribute to our community as well. The program has helped many participating students forge something positive when they need it most." For the past 4 years, ServiceWorks has received funding from Portland Public Schools. This past school year marked the last year of that funding. It has been an incredibly productive and positive 4 years. Several of the youth have come back to volunteer on their own accord, citing the positive experiences they've had through the ServiceWorks program. And many have utilized the experience for employment applications and job references. I thank Portland Public Schools for this incredibly rewarding partnership, and we truly hope to foster a continued partnership in the years to come. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having us. I'm Julie Stone. I'm the JMG specialist and the culinary arts instructor for Youth Building Alternatives, also known as YBA. For those of you not familiar with JMG, I'll just give a quick overview. It's a nonprofit that partners with public education and private businesses to offer results-driven solutions to ensure that all Maine students are graduating, attaining post-secondary education, and pursuing meaningful careers. Since 2010, JMG's partnered with YBA LearningWorks, and YBA is an alternative education program for out-of-school youth who have faced barriers to success in the traditional high school environment. Students are expected to complete 3 main components of our program, which include our academic 5-core piece, our vocational instruction in hospitality, culinary, and construction, and they are, of course, asked to complete our JMG Career Prep program. Our collaboration with Portland has come across a lot in our JMG programs. Portland does mock interviews, as does YBA, so typically JMG teachers will come over to work with our kids, and in return we come over here and help you guys with your mock interviews. We also do an urban adventure for our high school students along with our middle school, but our urban adventure for high school is a career scavenger hunt in Portland, and it's a great opportunity for kids to get out and communicate with the public and professional outreach and team building skills. To illustrate YBA quickly, I just want to share a quick story about a student. She came to us, she was quite withdrawn, didn't want to participate in any team building activities that we had to offer. She had horrible attendance the first month. But with our resources, we were able to give the student more attention. We called her every day, we communicated with her case manager, and we set up rides for her daily. And she did actually start to come a month, and she actually was one of our star students. She completed every aspect in YBA. She came to our JMG Career Development Conference, which is quite interesting because she actually brought home a trophy in team building initiatives, which is kind of ironic because she didn't want to start. And she was actually one of the first kids to complete her high set. And today that kid is actually an assistant teacher in one of our local daycares. So one success story there. And I just want to end with a wrap up for our group. And YBA has always functioned as an alternative solution for Portland High School, and all their local high schools actually. But it's allowed us, we have been able to give more individual attention to students' individual needs. And LearningWorks has always had a strong partnership with Portland High School and the school district in general, and we hope that we can continue this relationship. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having us. I'm Heather Davis. I'm the newish Executive Director of LearningWorks. I joined the team last fall after serving as the director of the Telling Room for 5 years and a total of 8 years with that incredible team there. And I wanted to go last because I wanted to highlight this incredible crew that's putting these programs together. I try to help keep everything organized and make sure that we have the resources that we need to do our work, but these are the folks who are really making it happen in the schools. And my job tonight is to talk just for a couple minutes about where the initiatives that we're doing at LearningWorks align with the Portland Schools Comprehensive Plan. Because there are many areas of natural alignment that I think have led to the incredible partnership that we have. So, for example, in the area of achievement, which is a big focus of the current comprehensive plan, there is a key focus on helping students in 3rd grade and 4th grade achieve their milestones for reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade and being proficient in math by the end of 4th grade, for example. So our LearningWorks After School program that Amy spoke about is specifically designed to support students' gains in literacy and numeracy. So we're at 6 schools in Portland, and just drawing one out of a hat to prepare tonight, I looked back at data from this past year. So at Reiki Elementary, 54% of the students that we served improved their math scores from fall to spring, and 89% of students improved their language arts scores from fall to spring. So that's just one school and one data point that we look at, but we're very much working in tandem with you all on the same goal. And another strategy identified by the schools that we share is this extended learning strategy. So we know that some kids need extra support, and then extended learning can be a way for the students to get that. So we are in 6 schools. There's potential to replicate what we do at other schools, and it's a really inexpensive and very effective intervention. Right now, it costs us about $3 per hour per student to offer this program. And we also, that includes 5 weeks of summer programming that we offer for 20 days each summer. Our Ames High AmeriCorps program also supports extended learning. Our members are there after school working in the school-based programs and also in the summer programs working on continued engagement and building community and getting families involved. in terms of focusing on the whole student and leveraging family engagement for student success, that is something that is also a part of our own internal strategic plan that we're adopting starting this fall. In our LearningWorks after-school sites, for example, we average a successful engagement of 70 parents per school per year through family game nights, student performances, celebrations of learning, and things like that. Through our AmeriCorps program, that's an example of how we're helping students build relationships with caring adults. That's a strategy that we both have in common, knowing that when kids feel connected in school, when they have someone they have a relationship with, they will be more successful. So bringing in AmeriCorps volunteers helps reduce the student-teacher ratio so that kids have more one-on-one attention and more support, people picking them up when it's 5 degrees to take them to school, making sure they have that caring adult that's always looking out for them. Social emotional learning is also a key component of our own strategic plan, as well as the district's comprehensive plan. And then equity, the way that we approach equity, I think, are strategies that we share and can partner on. All of our programs are free, so whether they're adult programs or the alternative high school or the after-school program, we reduce barriers to participation right away by making sure that the services are free for those who need it. Where we can, we provide case management and other wraparound services for our students to make sure that their basic needs are getting met so that they can actually show up and get to the academic piece. We include meals and transportation whenever possible in our programs. We make sure to locate ourselves on site at schools as often as possible, so there's a seamless transition from what's happening in the schools into LearningWorks enrichment opportunities. And we also work with the schools and other community organizations to bring in resources for kids that might not have access to them. So, for example, we work with the Maine College of Art to make sure that kids in our after-school program get art lessons. We work with Portland Community Squash to make sure kids who, aren't regularly signing up for sports or don't have the funding available to do that on their own, they get to do it with us. So a lot of our kids' peers, it's normal for them to go to a piano lesson after school or to go to tutoring. Not all of our students have that opportunity, so we bring it to them. And that's part of our focus on equity. And then finally, we have alignment around adult education as well. So our YBA program that Julie spoke about, that is offered to students between the ages of 16 and 24. So all the way up through that young adulthood period, we can help kids get their high school credential. And we can be very flexible on how we approach that. If they don't show up for a month, that's okay. We can get them back on track when they come. And then we also have the adult programs for new Mainers where we focus on English language and literacy, which Tiana spoke about at the beginning. And that's very much focused on a family component and making sure that students' parents have the resources that they need. So those are just a few of the areas where we're very aligned that I wanted to highlight. And we're very grateful for the partnership that we have with the schools and look forward to continuing it. And I believe we can take a few questions. So we are happy to do that.
Talk briefly about how long you've been in working with Portland Public Schools, and then the funding sources for all of this, because I think it's important for the board to get contextualized around the fact that most of this is grants and things like that you've worked to put.
Absolutely. So the question is, how long have we been working with the schools and how are the programs funded? So LearningWorks is a 50-year-old organization. It was founded in the 60s as Portland West, and it was a neighborhood advocacy group. So many people in this room may know it as Portland West. The name changed in 2009. We used to do affordable housing and behavioral health services, and over time came to focus on learning as the best pathway to help folks realize their potential and build a thriving community. So YBA, for example, is a program that's been running since the 90s. The current version of our after-school programs has been in existence for 9 years. Since 2009. So we've been anywhere from 1 to 2 decades. Most of these programs have been in existence. AmeriCorps is a bit newer, having started in 2013. And ServiceWorks, I'm not sure, I'm betraying my newness. I don't know when that was. 2 decades. 2 decades. So
Most of our programs have a source of federal, state, or local funding as sort of the main pillar that supports that program. So our after-school program is primarily funded through the 21st Century Community Learning Center grant program that comes through the Maine Department of Education. Our Service Works program is primarily funded through the Department of Corrections. Youth Building Alternatives is primarily funded through a partnership with the Maine Department of Corrections and the U.S. Department of Labor. And AmeriCorps is funded through the Corporation for National and Community Service. So there are federal funding streams for federal or state funding streams for all of our programs, with the exception of our ELL program. We have had City of Portland Community Development Block Grant funding for that program in the past, and this year we are moving into more private donations for that program from the Samuel Cohen Foundation, for example, and other local sources. And then we have contracts with the school districts that we're in, including Portland, that help us offset the additional costs that are not covered by the grants. So the grants will cover typically 70 to 80% of the program, but not the full cost, and that's deliberately set up to encourage partnerships between organizations, local school districts, other foundations, private businesses, to create sustainable partnerships that allow the programs to continue.
Ms. Thompson.
Thank you for asking that very question, because that was on my list here. I wanted to ask, in follow-up to that, so the program that Tim talked about, that the funding ran out after 4 years, you said that was funded by the Department of Corrections?
So
that was Department of Corrections?
We have some funding through the Department of Corrections for that program. The program operates in Cumberland County and York County. We currently have a contract with them to serve York County, but not Cumberland. And I believe that the funding that came from the Portland Public Schools in the past might have been through a Nellie Mae grant. It was before my time. I think there was a source of grant funding that we were able to collaborate on that doesn't exist going into this coming school year.
That's unfortunate. I'm just curious, and I don't need to know this right now, but I'm just curious as to the cost involved with that, and not that we have all kinds of funds available, but I was just curious as to the cost of that. But also the AmeriCorps, I know that our current president was targeting AmeriCorps. And I haven't I can't follow because I get CNN updates every 5 minutes as to what's going on there. But is there still funding on the federal level for AmeriCorps? Is that still happening?
There is still funding on the federal level, and Lauren, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this at all, but it is still, the federal budget is not set. It won't be set until October for future years, and the program is still very much, under threat of removal. Pretty much all of our programs are. So it's been a wild year. So we do, we partner with our local and national networks of folks who are also delivering these programs in other states to do advocacy and outreach, and spend time visiting with Senator Collins and Senator King and Representative Pingree to share some of these results from our programs so that they can make the case in Congress that these are valuable programs. So we try to stay focused on delivering day to day and working with local partners to try to make sure there's a safety net, because we don't want to see any of these programs just disappear overnight. Mm-hmm. We don't think that they will, but they are currently being threatened.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Vendo, and then Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for coming and for this wonderful presentation. It's always great to hear from our community partners and also to hear more about the work that you're doing, not just for our students and families, but for our community. So thank you. I did have a follow-up question about the youth building alternatives and the description as an alternative education opportunity for youth, young adults. I was just wondering, are students able to receive a diploma or some kind of, are they, what's the outcome for the students that are going through that if they're not going to a traditional high school?
Right. Currently, the focus of the program is high-set preparation on the academic side, so it's an integrated academic and occupational skills program. So I think in the past, there may have been partnerships that allowed students to actually obtain a diploma or a Maine state diploma, but currently they prepare for the high school equivalency examination, formerly known as GED, and that's what they end the program with. They also receive professional certifications in the construction trade and have the option to do professional certifications in the culinary arts and hospitality, and then we follow the students for up to 12 months after they officially graduate or exit from our program to ensure that they're enrolled in post-secondary education or the workforce. So that's the focus, is, you know, scooping up these young people who haven't connected with school and haven't connected with the workforce and are not in either place, and helping them get from point A to point B through the program.
That's awesome, especially with the follow-up that you do on post-secondary, you know, tracking, or not necessarily tracking, but making sure that, you know, students continue to have that support. It's easy to, you know, well, it's not easy, but for students that go through a structured, you know, program to be out on their own, and making sure that, you know, that there's still a support network for them. So it's good to hear that you're doing that work. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Davis.
My question was one on the federal funding, and some funding streams, Department of Education federal funding streams are forward funded, some are more contemporaneous. How long is your funding assured? Because I think the 21st Century Learning Grants are also one of the targets in this current budget cycle.
Unfortunately, they are a target. So we have, for some of our programs, we have funding, partial funding through the government, through the federally funded grants through 2020. So for example, we just had 6 Learning Works after school sites renewed for 3 more years. We also have funding for youth building alternatives through 2019, and AmeriCorps also through 2019. So we typically, the grants that we're getting are, you know, 2 to 5 year programs. So that's great, and then it allows us, you know, a certain amount of time to put plans into place. But year-to-year funding is based on, you know, the appropriations process in Congress. So, so it's a wild ride every year.
So, given the current, are you at risk for funding ending at the end of this current budget, so in September, and not being available October 1st? Or, you know, because you can't have, I recognize you can have a grant, but you wait for your grant award notification, which actually says you've got money for this year.
Exactly. I don't believe so. For the 2017-2018 year, I don't believe any funding is at risk. Beyond that, I think there is a possibility, but
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We remain hopeful.
Any other? Ms. Morioni.
I just want to say thank you so much for all coming tonight and for this presentation. This is my 9th year on the board, and I've never heard such a comprehensive overview of what Learning Works does, and this was really very helpful to understand, and I applaud all of your effort and hard work, and thank you for the partnership, because it really feels like without Learning Works, or partnership like yours, I mean, you're helping to provide things that obviously our schools can't provide, and help make sure that the kids aren't falling through the cracks when we may not even realize it at times. And so I think it's an essential partnership. So I really appreciate all your hard work, and thank you for the presentation tonight. Absolutely.
Anyone else? Well, I would just say thank you as well. This was a really great presentation, and I don't think I've seen a presentation from Learning Works as long as I've been on the board, so this was really educational for me. And several of us just got back from a conference on family and community engagement, and so we know the importance of kind of going beyond the classroom walls and meeting the needs of our students in their homes and after school, and breaking down those barriers so that parents can be advocates for their children as well in their education. So I think this is a really crucial partnership, and keep us apprised of anything we can do in terms of lobbying or helping with funding, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And keep us posted too about any resources that we have that we can share. We're really happy to share data or strategies or information about how we're doing, what we're doing, and partner with your educators on professional development or anything we can do to share resources. We'd love to continue approaching this in as collaborative a way as possible. So, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can always come visit.
And we often do. And there's always good things happening after school when I've seen you guys. So it's always great to see our kids engaged in those after-school hours that can be really bad times for kids. So that's where we have, year-round impact that we see every day. I also want to thank you guys for the presentation. I think it was really important for us to do this. I was surprised that there was not that, given the number of years that you've been in the schools, that the level of understanding of the amount of support that you, as an organization, provide to the Portland Public Schools is something that the board really needs to understand and appreciate. I think, in my comments at the beginning, talking about the ranking of the Portland Public Schools, I highlighted the fact that it's not, it's obviously the people in the schools, but it's also all the people that support us. And, this is a tremendous partnership that lends incredible support for things that we otherwise would not be able to do. And so I think that it's important for us to understand that the work that goes into supporting our kids goes beyond what we do in our budget and in our, time during the school day. So thank you. So our next presentation is one that I'm extremely excited about as well. Are you doing PowerPoint? So just leave that to yeah. No, that's okay. We wanted to bring to the board an update on the rollout of our comprehensive plan. As you recall, back in the spring, we discussed the fact that we had contracted with Maine to help develop a rollout of the plan to the community. This was funded, as I mentioned earlier, through a grant from Unum, and I'm glad, Carrie, that you were able to hang out with us this far. It's a generous contribution, and it enabled us to hire really amazing people to help us do this work. It was great to have them bring their professional expertise to bear on this work. As several of you pointed out throughout our early process, communication about what we're trying to achieve is important, and we need to use plain language that's understandable to all of our audiences. I think we've made significant progress in that area, and more importantly, Maine, through their help, have helped us to frame the comprehensive plan as a way to talk about the value of what the Portland Public Schools offers. They've helped us to shape this as a campaign to communicate that value to our public, and that includes a new image that helps to tell our story. Grace Valenzuela, our Executive Director of Communications and Community Partnerships, has done a tremendous amount of work. She took over responsibility for moving this communications plan from Malia when Malia transitioned into her new role. And Malia's not with us this week because she's on vacation, but Malia obviously did a tremendous amount of work to get us to the point where we transitioned to Grace. So I'm grateful to both of them for their leadership, their passion, their perseverance in working through all aspects of this communication effort. And I'm going to turn it over to Grace.
Good evening. So this is an exciting one because in this presentation there is a reveal at the end. So if you watch HGTV, like the last 10 minutes of the show is a reveal. So there is a before and there is an after. And so this is an exciting presentation, as the superintendent said. So this is I want to give you a context first, and maybe not necessarily for you, but the audience at home. And I want to thank Heather Davis for segueing us and mentioning, not just mentioning, but thoroughly discussing some of our goals in our comprehensive plan. So you know that the partnership is working when your partners are talking about your own comprehensive plan. So that's awesome. Thank you. So just to setting a context, so when superintendent was hired in last fall, the task that was given was to update the Portland Public Schools comprehensive plan that was developed in 2010. And he embarked on this with such a spirit and went school by school, listening with his listening and tour and input gathering tour. And he wanted to reach as many stakeholders as possible to develop a plan that we can all support, that we can back, and then we can all be excited about. And the in the comprehensive plan development, there were 4 themes that emerged, and these are achievement, equity, whole student, and people. And work groups were formed to flesh out further these themes and outline goals and some strategies to attain those goals. And in addition, develop some success indicators and metrics to ensure that we are achieving what we set out to do in terms of each of these goals. So sometime in the spring, it was all done. And so the next step was, okay, so we finished the comprehensive plan, now what? So we then thought of creating a communication strategy, and that's when we had the support of Unum to help us build a communication plan to create the materials that will support the vision for the plan. And included in that is sort of creating a refreshed brand for Portland Public Schools. In the process, what we had done was to, and you might remember these because you were one of the focus groups that was formed in the spring to gather input. And really, in the conversation in these focus groups, in these various focus groups, the questions that we wanted to further understand about Portland Public Schools is its value. What is Portland Public Schools? What's special about Portland Public Schools? Why do you want to send your kids to Portland Public Schools? How different are we from other school districts in the state or in the surrounding region? And why would you want to support Portland Public Schools? So to get this narrative, it's important to get the narrative so that we can create the brand image that we want to have and create a tagline. That was the other work that was asked of Might and Maine, to create a tagline to express our values. And of course, also to create a name for the plan other than the exciting comprehensive plan. So we want to make it as imaginative and reflective of our purpose and our vision. So with that, there should be a drum roll.
With your own drum roll.
Yeah, I do. And this is what we came up with in terms of the name of the comprehensive plan. It's now called Portland Public Schools Promise, Portland Promise. And the most exciting thing about the name is that it was not taken, it's a domain that is open. So we have a portlandschoolspromise.org, and we also bought the .com. So both of them are open, so that's exciting. And we created a rebrand, a refresh, to make our logo a little bit more contemporary. This is the new design. I think it's just, I don't know why it's not correct. It's not fully rounded in there. So, we are, with the help of our Might and Maine, our consultants, with funding from Unum, these are some of the campaign materials that we are working on and have been working on. All this since June. So we have created a Portland Promise. It's a 2-pager that is going to be used and distributed widely. And we also have the 5-pager that has all the metrics that will be used internally for all staff. And we have created some posters that featured our alumni that were interviewed and videotaped for their story. And we're going to do direct mailing, postcards. There will be Metrobus posters. There will be a banner right here across Congress Street, and the banner flag for light posts, and bookmarks to distribute to the students. So I want to talk specifically about the best people who can really tell our stories are our graduates. And so we are producing this, it's about 15 to 20 minute video of 10 alums. We're featuring 10 alums, and of course we looked at, they come from different schools, graduated in different years, varied age groups, varied professional fields, gender, diversity, and racial and ethnic diversity. And so there are 10 folks. And because the video cannot really tell the extent of their stories and what had made them successful and how special Portland Public Schools is and the contribution of Portland Public Schools in their success, Tess Nasilewicz is also writing a full story about each of the alumni that will be featured as well and be put on our microsite, the microsite of portlandschoolspromise.org. We also have hired a professional photographer to collect beautiful imagery of a visual image of story of a new visual identity for Portland Public Schools that will be fresh. And we started taking photos for this in the summer schools. And we are going to be using them in our website and in a microsite and some of the light posts that we are going to produce. So this is the light post is like this one that will run here in the city, in front of the City Hall. And we're just for a teaser. Yes. So this would be the promise, and the four the goals are around the prepared and empowered, and these are our value propositions. What does it mean to be a prepared and empowered student? Pursuing high academic standards, empowered to achieve in school, life, and work, a productive citizen of the city and the world, respected and respectful of others, personally connected to teachers, staff, and community, nurturing curiosity, creativity, empathy, and personal well-being. So, so that would be 1. And this will be the 2 examples of our posters of our alum that will also be in our schools. And I think also on the metro buses. So this is Lauren Reed Kane. She was a student at Longfellow, Lincoln, and Deering High School. She was an athlete. She is the co-owner and coach mentor of Maniacs Lacrosse Club and the founders of Girls Mentorship Program. So this is a quote. So there will be a quote from the alum. PPS gave me the confidence to be an empowered leader in our community. And that will be, and then there will be a story that it will have a link to, the link to the microsite will also be here, as well as, of course, the sponsor, which is Unum. So. And this one is Chanel Lewis. She graduated from Portland High School, and she was also at King Middle School. And Chanel is the program coordinator at Educate Maine and adjunct faculty at SMCC. And from Chanel, PPS taught me to believe in my ability to affect change, so now I can encourage others to do the same. So these are the examples, and there are 10 alumni that we are featuring. The launch is like in the next few weeks. So again, it's important to have internal launch first. So this was previewed at the admin team with the leadership team last week, 2 weeks ago. And then it will be on the first day of when staff is back. They will also receive the 2-pager document about the Portland Promise, and a discussion will be there. Will be done at the, I already have an appointment to do the training for the bus drivers and the food service people to understand what we're doing in this campaign, and then Javier will go back to each of the schools like what he did last fall, and bring with him the video of the alums, the stories, and hear it, and again remind and talk about what our Portland Promise is. So that will be part of again, another presentation tour at each of the schools internally. Microsite and the rest of the public collateral materials will be distributed on the 15th of September. So that's where we are. And but before I'll give you some of the this is still a work in progress. So what I'm going to pass out is the 2-pager. But don't be shocked in the back, because you will see Latin here, because it's still in progress. We're still arguing about words, wordsmithing it. But this is what it would look like, the 2-pager. And I also am attaching, because it's a nice story, Tess is writing all of these stories about each of the alum. So I have one here that is already approved by the alum that can go out. And this is from Santo Di Donato, who graduated in 1985. So, and I just want to make sure that I get this opportunity to thank people. Number one is, can't thank Unum enough. Carrie Olson and Cartwright is here with us tonight. They've been so wonderful. Just so you know, Unum is not just giving us the donation, the sponsorship to help pay for the campaign itself, they're also printing all of these, including our 5x7 postcards that will be about $25,000. So, I mean, this is a lot of contribution from Unum. So they're printing all of these things. And Leah McLeod has been a pleasure to work with for us, who is also a Unum staff. And of course, the Portland Public School staff who helped in the development stage of the comprehensive plan of Portland Promise. And under the guidance of Malia Nally, our CAO. And of course, PEF and Kate Snyder for their support. Kate, I think Kate was here today. And Tess Nasilevich for doing her writing. Nanette Dyer-Blake, who really does all the details, scheduling every videotape, shoot, every thing, little details. There's a lot of details that goes to that, and that happens when you're doing this kind of campaign. And our AmeriCorps members, Candy DiCama and Ryan Knippel. And of course, these are our consultants, Might in Maine, Knack Factory is the video production company, Jason Spooner is doing the website, and Nicole Wolf is a fantastic photographer that we've hired. And our alumni, who participated, Mohammed Abdirahman, Santo Di Donato, Truk Hon, Chanel Lewis, Merle Nilsson, Lauren Reed, Jackie Savage, Lucy S., Salim Salim, and Ben Waxman. So, thank you very much.
Ms. Thompson.
Wow. This is very, very exciting. I have a couple questions, but then also a suggestion. So the campaign materials, could you email those out to the board as draft after they're at a point where PDFs or whatever,
yes,
so that we can see
yes,
everything?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
before staff gets them, I'd love to be able to see them. And then also the boat. I never understood where that boat originally came from and now where we ended up with a boat again. So is that because obviously we have water, but I don't know the origination of the boat. Do you have any idea about that? No?
I've been here a long time, but I've not been that long.
I was always trying to understand that, and then we have a new boat. So I was just kind of,
So can I just say
waterfront
about the new boat, one of the things that came out of the focus group was that people felt some level of attachment to the boat as the image. They felt it represented Portland in some way, and so I think that was not that we just said like, oh, let's have a new boat. It was, it was really feedback that we got in the focus groups that image resonated with the community, but it could use a refresh. And I think the other piece that I don't know that you stressed enough that I really do want to come back to is the change of our tagline from learning to succeed to prepared and empowered. That was also something that we got a lot of feedback around, not really understanding what the significance was of learning to succeed. It could be thought of in two different ways, and so through our focus group process, we wound up with prepared and empowered, which, if you recall, was those were the underlined words under achievement, because that reflected our interest in making sure that people understood that, our responsibility is not just to make sure that kids have the skills, but also that they know what they're going to do with the skills. And so prepared and empowered was the way of representing that, and that's now our new sort of tagline as a district. So I'm really happy with that, and I think that does reflect the feedback that we've received, from the very beginning from the board and all the way through the focus groups around what really resonated with people.
And I guess my one idea, and maybe you've already thought of this, Grace, because you think of everything, is for the number of years I've been on the board, we've had that wooden block with the boat, and it says Portland School Committee, and I'm wondering if where we're here, but also when we're getting a traveling show again, that we have a banner for the front of wherever we are as a board. So if we go out to Peaks Island or here at City Hall, that we have it right across for our identification. I think that would be awesome to have the Portland Board of Public Education and then the promise on there. So that would be my one little suggestion.
There are different iterations of that. So there is a one that's also has the ship, and then under Portland Public Schools around it, and then prepared and empowered surrounding. So they have given us different ways of using it, you know, that maybe if we get more donors, that we can get vests that says Portland Public Schools, and then it says prepared. I mean, there are different ways that we could use it.
Well, and the only other thing I was going to say is remembering, too, our PATH students. They made that wooden block that we had before.
Yes.
And so engaging the PATH students as well into whatever we do would be also, so you're talking vests or
Awesome.
T-shirts, et cetera.
Awesome.
They would be a great avenue for us to tap into.
Great.
Thank you.
I saw Ms. Vendo and then Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that this presentation, I mean, tonight just made my heart sing. Let's just face it, like having a community partner, LearningWorks, come, and then, you know, having this be the, you know, the big launch of, you know, what's, you know, of Portland Public Schools rebranding, and, you know, to really, you know, have the thoughtfulness that went into the communications development, and also I want to thank so much Unum for their work and their you know, support, financial and emotional and professional support, because you know, we have talked as a school board, as, you know, for the longest time about doing marketing. I mean, I was looking at you, Marnie, because I remember the marketing committee that we had. And, you know, there's, at a certain point, you know, we can't get this done without, you know, staff and our community partners. And so I really, from the bottom of my heart, this is incredible work. Thank you. And, you know, I just feel so proud to be a part of this community, the school community that's doing this. So thank you.
And wait till you see all of the stories. They're so powerful. The full stories of our alum. They really are the ones who are going to market the schools.
And Ms. Davis, Ms. Morioni, Mr. Eder, we'll just go around.
I'll just echo the thanks. Having worked with this district for over 2 decades now, it is very exciting to see this, to see the nod to the history and the nod to the future, and that continuous sort of thread running throughout. And having spent some time at some national meetings where I've seen other districts' presentations, this looks like some of those other districts, and it's nice that we will have that, because I think it does really take what we've had, but has been wordy, difficult to communicate, and come up with something that actually is emblematic, easy to explain to all of our students, parents, and community, because, you know, representing those folks who don't any longer have children in the schools, and recognizing that we have many adults who both work in our schools and also study in our schools, that I think this will be a good way to kind of pull that together, very short, very clear, and bring clarity to our message, and put our strategic plan, our comprehensive plan, really at the forefront, so that that is directing us once again. Because I have been around long enough to remember sometimes in this district when our mission, vision, and beliefs was something that everyone could say, knew what it meant, and it directed our work every single day. Employees, students, staff, teachers, knew where we were headed as a district. And I think this will bring us back to that place. And is very, very exciting. So I'm pleased to see it. Thank you. Thank you to Unum. Thank you to all the folks who contributed along the way.
Ms. Morioni.
I concur with everything that's been said. It's a really, really exciting time to see this. And reading through even this 2-pager, there's just so many things that are just so heartwarming too we commit to always confronting inequity. Things that are happening in a national front that we here at home every day in and day out, our staff faces, and how to teach, the best lifetime skills to our students, not only just academics, but I'm just thrilled with this. And I think I love the idea of swag for the board members. Because you see the counselors walking around with little, pins that say counselor, blah, blah. But it'd be nice to, again, for us to be proud to represent and walk around with something that, that people go, oh, you're with, and just to help to share the story and explain it. And another thing, it'd be wonderful if there's any way at all possible to have some kind of launch, either party or cutting of a ribbon or some bigger, I know that it takes money and it's expensive. Maybe it's a potluck. I don't know. But I'm just simply saying, I'm happy to help.
It's part of the plan. I did not put that there because we don't have a date yet, but it will happen, right?
Okay. And thank you to Unum and to all the staff and to everyone that's been working so hard on this. It's really exciting to see how far we've come just in a few months. So thank you so much.
Mr. Eater, then Mr. Rodriguez.
We should have the launch on a boat. That'd be great. I'm on board the boat, and the great thing about this is that everybody in the city can pick this up and quickly get on board. This is a real example of what great design and a great mission and a lot of good work behind it can really do. Everybody can pick this up and understand what Portland schools are about. This is really, for me, it's like a culmination of a dream. I'm so happy to be here while this happened, and I thank everybody for their leadership on this and the fact that you pulled it together for me, because I was long ago talking with friends as soon as charter schools became a reality about how we really needed to market ourselves. It was a long time coming, but it's been well worth the wait. This is something, when we met with school leaders in Boston last year, one of our contemporaries had I call this like a one-pager like this, and I was so jealous of, but this is better. It's cleaner, it's clearer, and this is really what we needed, especially given, we often talk about how so many people who contribute to the schools don't have children in the schools. This is something they can comprehend, and they'll want to. When we did our outreach, our public outreach last year, there were so many people who came who didn't have children in their schools, maybe never did, and they wanted to be part of what we were doing. And this is the kind of tool that we can bring them in with. And so thank you so much. I'm so happy to see this. It's really like a dream come true, so thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, and then Ms. Seeliger.
Thank you, Chair. What else can we say? Thank you, of course, for the presentation. Thank you to Unum for being great partners and helping this come along. Shortly after coming onto the board, this was actually one of the first votes that I cast. It was us accepting and putting together, or passing the comprehensive plan, and it really brought a sense of energy and enthusiasm to the work that this district's doing, and of course all the work that Javier and the team has done. And just seeing everything that you put out there today and how we're going to market ourselves is phenomenal. But specifically, I wanted to say how excited I am about the alumni stories. And I can tell that you're ecstatic about it, I can tell. I tell people all the time, because I've heard it people tell me, I've told Javier this before, I love success stories because success is subjective, and I'm sure that all of these stories that we're going to see, they're all going to be very different, and they're all going to explain their success and how many different paths we can take to be successful. I'm static. I mean, I can't explain how emotional this makes me, especially this time in this country, especially after such a horrible weekend. After so many horrible things that we've seen, and I mean, obviously not just in the last few months, but in our history, and to prioritize these values and to show not just the rest of the city, but the rest of the state, and whoever gets to see this information, how beautiful this district is, and how much we value preparing our students to be productive members of society. I'm ecstatic. I can't say enough. This is special, and I'm really proud to be part of it. I'm proud to hear all my colleagues being as enthusiastic and just energetic about it as I am. And I love your enthusiasm, Grace. I mean, Jesus, to have you out there. You're giggling, and you're like slide to slide, and you're just loving it. That's great. So thank you. You can tell you
got the best part as an HTTP addict, but I love this designing this, so this is the reveal. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'm in the boat with Johnson.
Ms. Seeliger and then Ms. Thompson.
So, yeah, I think this is great. I love just echoing what everyone else has said. I love how simple this is, keeping it really simple, and I'm really excited to see the photos and the quotes up in Portland, how we're being integrated into the Portland city. We're not as two separate entities, but as seeing Portland schools as Portland, and we'll be able to see that on the street, and that'll be great. And also, it's like a meme. So the visual image and the quote, to me, is the visual aesthetic really ties into what people see nowadays, and the visual aesthetic that people want to see too. So this is great marketing. And students as citizens in Portland. So we're integrating from kids and getting done with school into being citizens and to being adults. And so the alumni idea is just a great fusion of that as people into Portland citizens and coming into their own as people in our city. And pride about being Mainers, being in Portland. I love all of that too. Just growing up here, and with the boat, the flagship, all that. And finally, I don't know if it's mentioned in here, but Portland High School, I believe specifically, is one of the oldest schools in the entire U.S. So it'd be something kind of cool to throw in there too. Like we're old and we're new, and that's something I love to think about, how we're like one of the first public schools in the whole United States, and look at us moving forward and integrating into public society and being citizens here in Portland. So thanks. I'm really excited about this. This is way better than anything I could have thought of. So thanks.
Ms. Thompson.
I just had one last thought, reminding myself of at one of our public affairs meeting with Mr. Eder, and talking about how we wanted to get word out about our public affairs meetings. And all of us, I'm not going to volunteer board members, but all of us campaigning at one time or another, and some of us are on multiple terms here, that Mr. Eder's idea was at the time to talk about public affairs for the board to go door to door. And I'm thinking too, and I'm not going to volunteer anybody, but it makes me think about pairing up with each other and break out the city and go door to door to introduce this, because the community wants us as board members as well. They vote for us, and we're the face of the Board of Education. So I think it would be a great connection tool for us as well to get out to those people that don't have children. Ms. Davis just campaigned, and she talked about going door to door, and we have Ms. Morioni going door to door now, and I think the public really appreciates it when we show up. So I'll sign up, and if others want to do it too, that I think it's really important for us to make that connection to the community, and those that came to the Public Affairs Committee saying, my tax dollars, all you're doing is going up, 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 and we don't have children. I think this is a great opportunity to start that dialogue and allow them to see and talk to them about all the great things happening. So if you could put that on your list, I would love to do it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Donato.
That's a great idea.
Ms. Donato.
I'm just thankful that you guys used our voices from the focus groups that you guys had in the spring, because in high schools and middle schools, they tend to take our feedback from surveys and not really put it to use, or take our input and put it towards something that we actually want to change. And I'm just glad that you guys took our input from the focus groups.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I would just say, echo everybody's wow sentiments. This is amazing work, and thank you to everybody who has put effort and resources into it. I look forward to seeing the message just all over Portland. I think, board members and I think district leaders as well can kind of resonate with this. We hear anecdotes of families wanting to leave Portland to go to surrounding communities for the perception of better schools when we have great schools right here. And I think, when this is fully implemented, Portland will be known both internally and by everybody outside as an education city. And when we have that reputation, I think we bring people here. So branding has really been kind of a missing link for us in getting that message out. So thank you. I'm really excited.
We all are.
So I want to thank the board as well, because you've been partners in this work from the very beginning. One of the tests as we've gone through this process is, if you recall, John at the meeting at Reiki last year brought us the one-pager from Clackamas in Oregon. And so that was in lots of our conversations a model for how do we get to something like this. John also, called us out on language that we used, and that was something that, we held throughout that process to really think about, how do we get this to a point where it's something that you don't need your thesaurus or your dictionary or encyclopedia to be able to sort out what it is that we stand for. And so I think that those things came in. Unum has been tremendous as a partner. We've talked a lot about how they funded, but Carrie was a thought partner in sort of thinking about this as a campaign. She brought Leah on board. Leah's given us, hundreds of hours of her brain to work with us. They hosted a meeting with some of was it your communications or strategy group at Unum, where we had our folks and their folks talking about these things. So it really is a partnership, and the focus groups were tremendous. We had great turnout from the student focus group, from the parent focus group, from the staff focus group. Your insights were incredibly invaluable. So this really is the culmination of lots of people giving us feedback. And without Grace, and before Grace, Malia, and Grace's team, Nanette, and all of the other folks that are here or are not here today, that have really done all of that work to get it to where it is. So I'm really glad that it is something that is consistent with what you wanted to see. And, clearly we have lots of work yet to do to be able to roll it out as a campaign. But this was great support today, and it couldn't have happened without your input along the way. So thank you. All right.
Okay, so that wraps up our board focus on educational issues and brings us to public comment, where it is before the hour of 10 o'clock. I would invite anyone to comment on any items not on this evening's agenda. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. And just before we adjourn, to remind everyone that we are having a workshop following this meeting. It's a part 2 of our budget workshop that Ms. Vendo spoke about in her Finance Committee report earlier. And with that, I would call for a motion for adjournment. Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Thompson. All those in favor?
It's unanimous.